Tonight I want to tell you about something that happened in a quiet corner of Idaho in 2006. A story so chilling that almost 20 years later, in February 2026, Hulu released a 3-part docuseries called The Scream Murder, a true teen horror story. But before the cameras rolled for that series, before the world watched those prison interviews, there was a real girl, a real Friday night, and 2 boys who turned a normal house-sitting job into one of the most heartbreaking thrill killings in recent American history. Her name was Cassie Jo Stoddart. She was 16 years old. And what happened to her that night still makes parents hug their kids a little tighter and makes teenagers think twice about who they call a friend. So if you're ready, let's walk through this together. Slowly. Because every single detail matters. Cassie Jo Stoddart was born on December 21, 1989, in Idaho. She was the middle child, older sister Kirsty, younger brother Andrew. Her mom Anna raised them with a lot of love and a lot of rules. Cassie wasn't the party type. She didn't drink, didn't do drugs, didn't skip school. Teachers described her as sweet, funny, the girl who lit up a classroom just by walking in. Friends said she had this warm laugh that made everyone feel included. She was responsible beyond her years, the kind of teenager you could actually trust with your house keys. That's exactly why, on the weekend of September 22, 2006, her aunt and uncle, Allison and Frank Contreras, asked her to house-sit their big home on Whispering Cliffs Drive in northeast Bannock County, just outside Pocatello. They were going out of town and needed someone to look after their dogs. Cassie said yes without hesitation. She even invited her boyfriend, Matt Beckham, to keep her company. It was supposed to be a chill Friday night, movies, snacks, taking care of the pets. Nothing more. But a few miles away, at Pocatello High School, 2 other sophomores were having a very different kind of day. Brian Lee Draper was born March 21, 1990, in Sandy, Utah. His family moved to Idaho when he was young. By high school he felt like an outsider, the kid who didn't quite fit in, who carried that quiet ache of wanting to matter. Torey Michael Adamcik was born right there in Pocatello on June 14, 1990. He loved horror movies, especially the 1996 classic Scream with its masked killer. The 2 boys had only been close for about 6 weeks, but they clicked fast because they both loved making videos and dreaming about becoming filmmakers. What started as innocent creativity twisted into something dangerous. They spent hours talking about famous crimes, the Columbine shooting, serial killers like Ted Bundy, the Zodiac, the Hillside Stranglers. They watched Scream over and over. Slowly, the line between movie fantasy and real life started to disappear. They began recording themselves on camera, talking about wanting to create something that would make them famous, something the whole world would remember. They wrote down a death list of classmates. Cass's name was on it. Matt's name was on it too. On the morning of September 22nd, they were already filming. School cameras caught them in empty classrooms and hallways, speaking directly to the lens like they were making a documentary. They talked about the plan. They said Cassie was perfect. They bought 4 knives, 1 serrated, 3 regular, through a friend who picked them up with $45 they gave him. They got dark clothes, gloves, and white masks that they painted to look bloody. Everything was ready. That same afternoon, around 6 o'clock, Brian and Torey showed up at the Contreras house like it was any normal visit. Cassie welcomed them in with her usual smile. She gave them the full tour, living room, kitchen, even the basement. Matt was already there. The 4 teenagers sat down together and started watching Kill Bill Volume 2. They laughed, they chatted, everything felt completely ordinary. But while Cass's back was turned, Brian quietly unlocked the basement door from the inside. Just in case. A little while later the boys said they were leaving to catch another movie at the theater. They walked out the front door like nothing was wrong. Cassie and Matt kept watching the film. The dogs were calm. The lights were on. The house felt safe. Outside, Brian and Torey didn't go to any theater. They drove down the road, parked far enough away that no one would notice the car, changed into their dark clothes, pulled on the gloves, and slipped those painted white masks over their faces. Then they crept back through the unlocked basement door. This is the part where the story stops feeling like a normal Friday night and starts feeling like the opening scene of a nightmare. Inside the basement they started making loud banging noises, hoping Cassie and Matt would come downstairs to check. When no one came, they found the circuit breaker and flipped the power off. The entire house went dark. Upstairs, Cassie felt a chill run through her. The TV went black. The lights vanished. She told Matt something felt wrong. Matt noticed one of the dogs standing at the top of the basement stairs, staring down and barking like it saw something it didn't like. He picked up the phone and called his mom. "Can I stay the night?" he asked. Cass is kind of scared. His mom said no, it was a school night, but offered to let Cassie come sleep at their house instead. Cassie refused. She said, I can't leave the dogs alone. I promised my aunt and uncle. That decision, made out of pure responsibility, would cost her everything. Around 10:30, maybe a little later, Matt's mom arrived to pick him up. Cassie walked him to the door, gave him a hug, and watched the car drive away. Now she was completely alone in that big, dark house. The moment Matt's taillights disappeared, Brian and Torey flipped the breaker again. Some lights came back on for a second, then off once more. They waited. Then they slowly climbed the stairs. Brian carried a dagger-style knife. Torey had a hunting knife. At the top of the stairs they slammed a closet door as hard as they could. The loud bang echoed through the silent house. Cassie was sitting on the living room couch, probably trying to decide whether to call someone or just wait it out. She never got the chance. The two masked figures stepped out of the shadows. What happened next took less than 2 minutes. According to the autopsy and the evidence presented in court, Cassie was stabbed nearly 30 times. 12 of those wounds were deep enough to be fatal on their own, several piercing the right ventricle of her heart. She was attacked while she was still on the couch, trying to defend herself in the dark. The boys left her there, bleeding out on the floor of the home she had promised to protect. They didn't panic. They calmly walked out, drove to Black Rock Canyon, and buried everything: the bloody clothes, the gloves, the masks, the knives, and the VHS tape they had been recording on all day. On that tape you can hear them before the murder, excited, laughing, saying things like Cassie had to be the one, she was perfect for the plan. And right after the murder, still breathing hard, one of them says clearly, "We just killed Cassie, we just left her house." This is not a joke. They talk about becoming famous, about starting a killing spree, about how this was only the beginning. 2 days later, on Sunday, September 24th, Cass's aunt and uncle came home. The sight that greeted them is something no family should ever have to see. Blood everywhere. Cass's body on the living room floor. The community of Pocatello was in shock. People locked their doors that night who had never locked them before. Everyone assumed it had to be a stranger, some random intruder. The police investigation moved fast but carefully. First they looked at Cass's mother's boyfriend. His fingerprints were on the circuit breaker because he had done electrical work in the house before. Solid alibi. Next they looked at Matt. He took a polygraph, passed with flying colors, and his story never changed. That left Brian and Torey, the last two people known to have been inside the house that night. Their alibis kept falling apart. One day they said they went to the movies. The next day they said they just drove around. They couldn't name the film they supposedly saw. They couldn't remember what time it ended. On September 27th, Brian finally broke. He led detectives to Black Rock Canyon and showed them exactly where the evidence was buried. When police restored that damaged VHS tape, the case was over. The footage was devastating, hours of the boys planning, choosing Cassie, celebrating afterward. It was clear this wasn't rage or jealousy. This was a thrill kill. Pure and simple. They wanted to be remembered like the characters in the movies they loved. They wanted headlines. They wanted to be infamous. Both boys were arrested that same day and charged with first-degree murder and conspiracy to commit first-degree murder. Because they were 16, they were tried as adults. Brian's trial began in April 2007. The prosecution played the tapes. The jury saw the planning, heard the excitement in their voices, watched them describe the murder minutes after it happened. Brian was convicted on April 17th. Torey's trial followed in June. Same evidence, same result, guilty on June 8th. On August 31, 2007, the judge looked at both boys and sentenced each of them to life in prison without the possibility of parole, plus 30 years to life for the conspiracy charge. The courtroom was packed with Cass's family and friends. Her grandfather Paul Cisneros said simply, "One down, one more to go." Her mother Anna said, "My baby got her justice." The appeals lasted years. Brian's conspiracy conviction was overturned in 2011 on a technicality with jury instructions, but his murder conviction and life sentence stayed. Torey filed multiple appeals, including one after the U.S. Supreme Court rulings on juvenile sentencing. In 2017 the Idaho Supreme Court upheld everything. Federal courts denied him relief again in 2019 and 2022. As of February 2026, both young men, now 35 and 36 years old, are still serving life sentences at the Idaho State Correctional Institution near Kuna. They are kept in separate units and do not speak to each other. In the 2026 Hulu Docuseries, both gave prison interviews. Brian has spoken about regret, about losing his entire life, about how fear of being a nobody led him down that road. Torey has said they now accept responsibility even if their memories of the exact events differ. They work prison jobs, read, try to stay productive. But no amount of reflection can bring Cassie back. Cass's family never got over it. Her mom Anna passed away from cancer in 2022. Her brother and sister still carry the empty space every single day. In 2010 the family sued the school district, saying the warning signs should have been seen. The courts dismissed the case. No one could have predicted two teenagers would do something so calculated and so cruel. But the family found a beautiful way to keep Cass's spirit alive. Every year they hold pumpkins for Cassie. They sell pumpkins, and every dollar goes to the Pocatello Animal Shelter and the Idaho Food Bank. Cassie loved animals and she loved helping people. This event lets her keep doing both. Her grandmother and friends still run the stand. Strangers who never met Cassie show up year after year just to say thank you and to remember a girl who only wanted to do the right thing. So let's sit with that for a second. A 16-year-old girl, doing exactly what her family asked her to do, refusing to leave two dogs alone even when she felt scared. Two boys she considered classmates, one of them had even been inside her home that same evening, chose her because they wanted to feel powerful. They wanted fame. They wanted a story that would outdo the movies. The Scream films were entertainment. What happened in that house on Whispering Cliffs Drive was not. It was real blood. Real fear. A real future stolen. I think about Cass's last moments a lot when I research cases like this. She was responsible. She was kind. She was doing everything right. And still, evil found her. That's the part that stays with you. That's why we tell these stories, not to scare ourselves, but to stay awake. To notice when a friend starts talking about violence like it's a game. To teach our kids that obsession with darkness can cross a line we can't uncross. If this story touched you, if it made you feel something, please do 3 things for me. Hit that like button so more people see Cass's name. Subscribe to Brutal File and turn on notifications. We have more real stories coming that deserve to be told with care. And in the comments, tell me, what do you think we should be watching for in the teenagers around us? When does just a movie stop being harmless? Cassie Jo Stoddart was more than a victim. She was a daughter, a sister, a friend, a girl with college dreams and a big heart. Her story didn't end the way it should have, but her memory is still helping animals and feeding families every autumn when those pumpkins go on sale. Thank you for sitting with this heavy one tonight. Stay safe out there. Hold your people close. And I'll see you in the next video. This has been Brutal File, where the truth hurts, but it still needs to be told.